guys. Welcome back to definitely the 5th episode of Just the Thought Podcast. 845. Keep forgetting the 845. I know it's been a month. You guys miss us? Yeah, right?
That's a fact. I'm ready to be back and just get to action. So,
You gonna be swapping mente still today? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So today's topic is basically bridging the gap between generations. We have an amazing group of team members. I would say team members because a few of them are NAACP members. We do have one returning, and of course, yet our biggest team member. We have Scott Young in the house. The behind the scenes man is in front of the camera today. So we're excited. You want to talk a little bit, Ashton, about what bridging the gap is and what the purpose of this episode will be?
yeah, that's about bridging the gap. So today's episode, we're going to talk about bridging the gap. We got 3 generations here. We got our youngest generation with Carrie. We got our oldest generation with Scott. And we got Calvin, the middle.
Man, you made the middle sound so bad.
I mean, it's the middle child,
It is what it is.
So the generations represented is Generation X, the Millennial, and Generation Z. XYZ, as Scott has been saying all week. So you guys are ready? We're going to jump right into it. So first thing first, can you guys tell everybody a little bit about yourselves? We'll start with Carrie, since Carrie's the newest member of the team today. Explain to everybody who are you and how old you are, by the way.
My name is Carrie Lewis. I'm a recent graduate of Rample High School. I'm 18 years old, and it's just a pleasure to be on this podcast and be with all these successful young African Americans.
Ooh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, Carrie.
All right. I'm Scott Young. A lot of y'all know me as Tice, Coach Tice. I'm 57 years old. I got Community Gap Radio. That's why I love this bridging the gap, because it's too close. And TNL Radio, pull your pants up, pull your pants up too. And I'm all about community. Doesn't matter, youth, elderly, in between, whatever. I'm gonna be there, because if I talk that talk, I'm gonna walk that walk. So I'm here to do what I can do.
Talk the talk and walk the walk. That's it. All right, last but not least.
Calvin Demetrius, Spring Valley NAACP, entrepreneur, 31 years of age. I don't really got that cool of an intro as Scott. It is what it is. I'm here, so 90s baby.
Wow. 90s baby. I'm an 80s baby.
That's okay.
Oh,
Ain't
wow.
nothing wrong with that.
Ooh, didn't Carrie? I didn't like the way you were like.
You can't take that from him, because a lot of stuff we seen he ain't even understand.
Not yet.
Not yet. He will hear some stuff.
Well, today we're gonna talk about it. So, actually, you want to get into the first question?
Let's talk about it. All right. How do you feel that past traumas affect communications between the generations?
So,
We're going to break that down a little bit. Something like, let's say like how you get along with your parents. Or somebody a little bit older, like a mentor or things like that. How do you bridge that gap between the two of you?
if I can elaborate a little bit more on that question, meaning where you have like your parents and then you have the younger generation, there's always more conflict, whereas the middle child is becoming more understanding because we've been through it. So the conflict between the parent and the middle child is a little bit lessened. So to reiterate his question, do you feel that the factors of past traumas affect communication between generations? So who you want to start with, Ashton?
I'll go with Titus.
That's a good choice.
So, me personally, yes. I'm the oldest grandchild, male grandchild. I'm the oldest nephew, the oldest cousin. My grandmother had 16 kids, 8 boys, 8 girls, so you already know what kind of personalities and stuff I had to deal with. I was the only boy in the house with 4 women, my 3 sisters and my mother. As far as the traumas, we have a different generation back then, and a lot of it we carry over in our adulthood, You know, we told that men don't whine, don't cry, this and that. We have to protect our women, this and that. And that stuck with me to even now, even dealing with y'all, because, you know, I gotta make sure everybody's all right. That's in me. That's who I am. I might lose a little hair, get a little fatter or whatever, but the core of who I am will never change.
Amen.
That's who I am. So yeah, past traumas, for me myself, you know, in my generation, you know, I was too dark. You know what I'm saying? I was told I was ugly, the whole nine. I didn't understand, and I always dressed in the style that I am now. I always had my own style. And it wasn't until the age of 44 that I really understood that I am handsome and I am somebody.
Amen.
And that's crazy. And what really brought that to effect is I really started looking at pictures, because in my era, we really didn't take pictures. You know what I'm saying? So when the cell phone and I started looking at the pictures, truthfully, I didn't recognize me. You know, I knew it was me because I knew the outfit. Ain't nobody got that but me. You know, and that's the truth. You know, I have to tell that truth. And a lot of times, you know, we're subliminally messaged and hear stuff continuously. And I've learned if you let other people tell you who you are, that's who you'll continue to always be.
Amen.
So you have to always look within yourself and look to God, because God has been with me every step of the way, regardless of what I thought or everything I did. I didn't do nothing on my own. So yeah, the past traumas can hurt you, but if you understand who you are and believe in God, He's going to eradicate all of that.
Amen. Now, Carrie, same question. Do you feel that past traumas have affected communications between you and your parents, or you and mentor and mentee?
Me personally, yes. I would say like just growing up in a Caribbean household and trying to express how you feel about certain topics, certain subjects, but expressing them without coming towards as disrespectful was really hard for me, and to navigate that, because especially like having a lot of Haitian relatives, and when they tell you to do something, they want it done. You might not agree with it, you might have your personal views, but it's not until I got to the point where I hit junior year of high school, I'm my own person. And I respect my parents' decisions, I respect my parents' suggestions and opinions, but I also want to get a point across. I also want to bridge the gap of them listening to me and me always listening to them. So it's just like a learning point. We could always bring each other something that we could learn and we could give them out. Like, especially being part of MBK, that really helped me navigate how to communicate with other generations, because it's not only my generations like Scott's and Calvin, and that really just taught me how to communicate and express how I feel.
Do you mind explaining what MBK is for those who've never heard of it?
MBK is My Brother's Keeper initiative that was started by former President Barack Obama to help young African Americans navigate through society, but also being successful and knowing that they have a purpose within life.
Here we go, Carrie. Now, Calvin, listening to Carrie and listening to Scott, being in the middle, especially understanding where Carrie was coming from and wanting to have the voice and standing out on your own, but yet hearing what Scott has said with all the trauma he has had to endure, what is it that you feel? Do you feel that there is an effect of communication?
Yeah, definitely, because I think the biggest difference in the gap between communication is that the traumas are different. So like, for example, Carrie mentioned that, you know, his parents came from Haiti. So their trauma is completely different. You know, coming to the country, having to learn the language. So now they're taking what they learned from Haiti and then bringing that to America, when America is completely different. But now Carrie, he has the opportunity where, you know, he was born in America, but then also because of social media age, the information out there is so much faster. So while, you know, growing up, right, and Scott, like, we were taught not to talk back, not to have our own opinion. But now I feel like for Carrie's generation, that's almost impossible because he has so much information available to him where there are some things that he genuinely may know more than his parents. Whereas in our generation, it was like, because we're older, you have to listen, period. Whereas Carrie was like, hey, I heard what you said. However, like, I literally have the information right here in my hand that is actually completely wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually completely wrong. You know, it's actually not factual.
Yeah.
And then, you know, once again though, being like the middle child, you know, between generations, you know, I can see where both people are coming from, because as an adult who's experienced certain things coming to another country, you've been told about what the American dream looks like. So the fact that, you know, your child is having other ideas, you're assuming that they're just confused or they don't know any better. So you want to, you know, kind of, you know, dominate in terms of that as a parent. Whereas, like, once again, I also agree where Carrie's coming from, because the information that they were given, the American dream that they were sold before they came to the country, was actually completely false. You know, so it's like, it's very difficult trying to, you know, explain that. But like Carrie said, you know, the younger generation, they have to come of age where, you know, they have to, where they're understanding who they are as a person, because in schools, they're actually telling you to be an individual, right? Like when you're speaking with friends, and then you're on social media, and then even content creation, everything about the newer generation is about coming into yourself as a person. Whereas like our generation was like following status quo, don't look left, don't look right, only see straight, you know, lawyer, doctor, engineer, right? If you're in a Haitian household, nurse, you know, that was it. Whereas like Carrie, you know, he has access to so much more information where he's like, I don't have to be any of that. I could create a YouTube page. I could actually get paid from playing video games, you know, become a millionaire playing video games. So, you know, it's very difficult to actually have that conversation, you know, because they're still stuck on the fact that because you're young, you don't know any better. But, you know, that's when you just have to try and open up the streams of communication between all generations and just try to work on it. But, you know, I can see where both sides are coming from, and it's tough because it's completely different times, you know, growing up in America. So, you know, it's tough, but it's possible.
It's possible. That being said, what generations do you think combat each other the most?
Start me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Combat each other the most?
Yeah, which one have the most
man.
conflict? Which generation do you guys believe? We'll start with Calvin since he gave the big spiel.
You know what? Because that's the thing. I feel like millennials, like, we see what's happening with the younger, or it was Gen X, what are they?
It's Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. And then we
Okay.
have a whole new, it's called Generation
Okay.
Alpha,
Well,
Generation
let's
Beta.
say
Read the end of the alphabet, X, Y, Z.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand how you start all over again. That's all I'm trying to understand.
I mean, yeah, I would definitely say if I had to pick the biggest conflict, because once again, us being in the middle, we see them, but like a part of us kind of understands where they're coming from, whereas the older generation just has no clue, like at all. Because even for us, we have social media, but even when we saw them dancing on TikTok, we thought that was a little weird. So imagine the era that has completely no social media at all, and it seemed, you know, because like we had a time where we weren't living on our phones, you know, like, you know, we weren't. So we had the best of both worlds in a sense, because we were actually playing outside. But, you know, the older generation has no idea where, you know, you guys are coming from, and just very confused by it. Some of them is kind of stuck in their ways. So I would say that would probably be the biggest, you know, headbutters, is just, you know.
So Gen X and Gen Z.
Exactly.
Would
Scott,
you agree, Carrie?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Okay, Scott.
I would say my generation and the younger generation, the youngest.
Okay.
For the simple fact that the way that I was brought up, like he said, you do what you're told, this and that. You don't talk back. You know, I heard a young boy tell me the other day, as soon as he get his allowance, he gonna buy him some new Jordans. I'm like, you know, that's a mortgage payment. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand? You know, and if I'd have said something about allowance when I was little, my mother would have said, oh, I allow you to live here, yeah, and I'm gonna allow you to get out my face before you get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole different thing. But what bridging community gap with me is about, because I know the gap is there, and they want to express themselves, just like us. There was some people that thought my generation wasn't gonna make it. That's probably why we the X generation, you know what I'm saying? Because X ain't never stood for nothing good. X, your paper wrong, you get an X. On the bottle of poison, got an X. You know what I'm saying? And only thing good an X stand for in the little way was the treasure map. That was it. You know, so I feel like people X'd us out. But when the internet came in, and people started really booming and becoming millionaires through the internet, people had to stop and think about it. But like I said earlier, you got XYZ, XYZ. All right, you're gonna start again. What they, alpha, beta? They ain't alphas. And I don't know about beta, but it's gonna be different, because right now what you have right here is history. And to have this conversation is just so poignant, because you said something earlier, communication rules the nation. I always say that. If you don't know how to communicate, it's always going to be a problem. You can't listen to respond, you have to listen to learn. And I, like Grandma, TNL Radio, the owner, she 82 years old. I was the technician in the station. When I got married and moved up here out of Brooklyn, 82 years old, she's running the station now. So don't tell me a lion can't change, a tiger can't change its stripes and all of that. 82 years old, she running a full radio station, and she didn't know nothing about the cell phone. I was teaching her that. So pressure makes movement. Pressure also busts a pipe, but pressure also makes diamonds. Always remember that.
Amen. I feel like I'm in church today. Wait a minute. All right, so back to the conversation, like talking about now with illness. Does illness of a family member affect the relationship between generations? I can vouch for that, because I'm a proxy, as my co-host knows, him and I have conversations. I'm a proxy for both my father, my stepmother, and my mother. So if something goes down, all hands have to drop everything, and I'm the main point of contact. And that, I feel like, puts a lot of strain on myself, because that's a huge responsibility, let alone 3 huge responsibilities, additional to my own personal responsibilities. So that puts a strain on the relationship with my sister and I, because then we're arguing who can do more for our parents. And then that also puts a strain on parents, because I can say that my father, men, oh, you guys are on the set with men. Men, you guys do not like to relinquish any power at all. Especially if you're sick, you could be halfway out of this world, and you will not, you'll be like, I got it. Knowing you can't even walk or talk.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Golly. Okay, here we go. All right, so question. Does illness affect family member affect relationships between generations? That was not corrected, but you understand. Carrie, tell me.
I would say for me personally, the type of illness is not really physical. I would say more of an emotional, and being self-aware of your emotions, especially with my family. And picking back up on the trauma and how we have different traumas, it gets to a point where a lot of my family members don't know how to correctly express their emotions when they get to a certain point. And they take those emotions out in different ways. They try to cope with it differently. But the ways they cope with it is not the proper way to emotionally express yourself. And that just comes with them coming from a generation where, oh, we're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to keep working. We're supposed to keep going on, keep pushing, keep pushing. It's okay to tell yourself you are not okay. It's okay to reflect and sit. I need a mental break. I need that week. I need that day. Maybe an hour every day, maybe 30 minutes to just sit and just, I needed this. I needed to have some time for myself to relieve because as humans, we work and we work and we work, and we're very self-orientated, goal-orientated, and we work, and days go on, hours go on without taking a break for ourselves, especially nowadays in society. Everybody's trying to achieve financial freedom or just power, and when you get to those type of processing and thoughts, like, you're gonna lose yourself. And that's why you need to sit back and just relax and go at your own pace. My mom always told me this: everybody has a different journey. And when you start playing the comparison game, that's when you lose yourself even more. That's when you get caught up in, oh, he has this, so why don't I have this? He has that, so why does she has this, why does that have this? It's just really just knowing, working at your pace. Knowing that God has a path for you, and whatever He has set out for you, He's going to get you there. It may be fast, it may be slow, it may take years, but He's going to get you there.
So you can basically say it's more of the mental illness, the unawareness of the mental illness is what causes the strain. That's a good one, because that's one of the big.
About that one.
Yeah, I didn't think about mental illness. That's a good. Okay,
Physical
Carrie.
illness, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think about that. What do you have to put on that, Calvin?
Okay. So, so I would say that is a big gap because, once again, being a middle child, I almost am more even on the side with, like Tice, and the reason why is because, or Scott, and the reason why is because, like, I think Carrie, like, you're absolutely right in terms of, mental health. However, one of the things that I see, and then, I feel like Ashley could vouch for it too, but like what happens is, and then I'm not a medical expert or anything, but I almost feel like if you give, like, I guess almost power to someone's, like, to your, I guess to your stressors, you're giving it too much power, and then now, because like what happens is, once again, we come from a generation of people who had to literally leave their country, learn the language, get a degree, work these jobs, and take care of a whole family, and they were able to do it.
You're not beaten, you're fine.
You know what I'm saying? No matter how stressful it was, no matter how crazy it got, and I definitely agree that perhaps during some point of their journey, you could have labeled it as something they were going through as, let's call it depression or whatever the case may be. But because there was no label to it, they had no choice but to press on. Mm-hmm. So now what happens is, I feel when anybody is, and this is for the younger generation, I feel like now when you're met with an obstacle and you don't feel like you can press on, because there's a title that you can give all the power to, you're almost crippled by it, where you feel like it's okay to give up because, oh, it was causing me to, my this journey to achieve my dream was causing me depression. So, I stopped going after it. And, I almost feel like it builds that quitting muscle where, in fact, the older generations, they had to go through so much more than us. Like, like even right now, when you think about like Dr. Martin Luther King, what he had to overcome, I feel like, anybody would have definitely told him, dude, the mental stress that you're going at, do not take that march. Like, when you're getting bitten by dogs and you're getting beat, beat and hit with fire hoses, God knows the type of mental, endurance. You know what I'm saying? So he could have been given that and he'd be like, you know what, I'm taking this month off. You feel me? Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going through this. I'm going through that. So I would say that does leave a gap in communication, because like I saw a funny TikTok where it's like, oh, my parents just don't understand depression. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, you want to know depression? Well, I had to, it was like, you don't know walking to school, having to take care. So like, I would say that is a gap where I do lean more towards, the older generation, because like, yes, there are a lot of mental illness and things of that nature. However, at what point do you overcome it, and at what point is it all right to ever succumb to it? And I feel like because we never labeled it, we never gave it power, we just knew to push through it more. You know, so that's all. You know.
Well, it goes back to like Caribbean parents or even some black parents where if you say you have a mental problem, you're automatically labeled as crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so that is one of the reasons why. Thank you, Carrie, for bringing. Where
Yes.
we didn't even put
Yeah.
mental illness as something that can affect the family dynamic. That's so
I was
amazing.
thinking about that.
Just to push the conversation forward, today's economy is affecting us greatly. You already touched on it where Carrie's generation can make millions of dollars just on TikTok, where we have Scott's generation that had to wake up 5 a.m. and go out and work and build all the way till the wee hours at night, and then the women stayed at home, you know, doing. But in return, making money was a lot quicker and easier, whereas a gallon of milk or gas was like 97 cents a gallon or something.
35
Whereas for us right now, just for us to even breathe, we have to pay for the air in the air. So how does today's economy affect the family dynamic between generations? Carrie, I'm gonna go back to you because you've been leading the conversation so well. So financially, how does it affect your family?
Financially, I would say being like having like parents that came from Haiti and that worked their butt off to get me to this position and to sacrifice a lot. The main issue financially is save. But I feel like now that I have developed a mind of my own and just researching, I feel like in order for you to be comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable. And a sense of
I love this boy.
you have there's a risk and reward, but you have to manage how you risk investments and all that. Me personally, like a lot of my family members want to buy a house. But my opinion on a house, I'm like, a house is so much of a liability in my opinion. Because if you think about it, you're paying mortgage, you're paying gas, you're paying water. But what you could do to get that house is to build an asset portfolio to where you have money and revenue generating to cover the expenses of that house before you even try to live paycheck by paycheck to pay for a house that you cannot afford. So I feel like at some point, each generation has to go through a financial literacy phase where they can learn about how to process money management and all that. And I feel like with my generation, it's really been a big course subject for us because we try to make money. I'm keeping a stack with you. We are trying to be financially free. And within today's society, a lot of kids in my classes and seeing on TikTok, oh, this is how you can make money on Bitcoin, this is how you can make money on cryptocurrency investments and all that. You can even make money sitting online, or doing trades. And it's just really cool to see how each generation is evolving within our economy.
Tice, I gotta jump on Tice. So Tice, to hear that his generation already are financially literate compared to your generation where it took a while to understand financial literacy because we all had to just go to work. How do you feel like it affects the dynamic between families where a father has to explain to a son how to make money, but then you have your son who's speaking so eloquently like this?
Well, I'm gonna commend you, young fella. I didn't expect all that to come out of you. I'm proud of you, and I just met you. Oppression will lead to depression, which will lead to repression. What I mean by that, when it feels like the world is on you and crushing down on you, you step back in a place which is depression. You get back. You don't want to mess with anybody. You don't want to deal with nobody. So that's part of regression. You regress into a place that's safe. And if that's not talking to nobody, picking up your phone or whatever. And that's what the economy has done to the family dynamic. Because you scared to pick up the phone because somebody might ask you for $20. You ain't got it. So you feel bad about not having it because you want to help them. And yeah, they raised the minimum wage, but gas went up, food went up, rent went up, everything. So even if you was right here, now you're down here, you struggling just a little bit more. You know, when, like you said, back in the days, gas was 35 cents or whatever, I could go to the store and take $1 and it's on. You know, we go to the store and spend $6 on a hero, it'd be 5 of us on a hero, breaking it off, you know what I'm saying, enjoying. And you can't do that these days because the money is crazy. Like even after COVID, the price of eggs and milk and all of this stuff that you could usually afford, it's not there. And the government's not giving you what you need. They're making it seem like they're giving it to you. They're talking to you in subliminal messaging. We raised the economy. We did this. We did that. But it's not showing in your lifestyle. And then your mother needs help with bills. He needs school clothes. He needs gas for the car. You know, and everything is steady going up. And it's like the $800 you got in your pocket that would last the whole month is gone the first 7 days of the month. And now you're struggling for the next 3 weeks to just make it, to keep food in the house, to take care of family, to travel. Tolls is crazy, going across the bridge, everything. And it's like, when is it gonna stop? When are we gonna make the breakthrough? And like he said, we have to learn to be financially stable within ourselves. We have the talent to do it. This is our time right now to do anything we want to do. Create it. If you can perceive it, it can be conceived. That means if you can think it and imagine it, it can be brought forth. And like even Calvin, you need to talk to this man because he got it going on as far as being financially independent. He got some stuff going on. So I'm gonna connect y'all together afterwards. Y'all need to make sure. And
what it's about.
my whole thing is, even with the mental illness, I didn't get to speak on that, but I'm gonna say that it's a lot going on. There have been programs that have been taken from these mental illness clinics. They have been shut down and put towards other stuff that there's not worth. And people have to realize during COVID, a lot of people died. And you might have had Uncle Bobo that stand there and talk to the tree every day, you know what I'm saying, and say, oh, that's just Uncle Bobo, he all right. But he was taking his medicine that kept him on that level. Now the caretaker that was taking care of him might have passed away during COVID and he off his medicine. Now he out here wilding and everybody like, Uncle Bobo's bugging, you know what I'm saying? But you don't understand that the person that was taking care of him who might have been elderly that had the so-called underlying problems that made them more susceptible to COVID have passed away and there's no caretaker for him. So what you do? You call the police. Police come, Bobo swinging his shirt around. They done shot him, beat him up, all kind of stuff. Instead of calling a crisis, they need to get a crisis a team together to come and deal with that. To talk Uncle Bobo down and tell him it's going to be all right. It's not always physical because when you're dealing with people that with mental illness and it seems like you're going to hurt them, they're going to go off.
Yeah.
They're not, they don't know you, they don't care about you, you've never seen you before, they don't trust you. So we have to get the programs back. We have to get the programs back. And I mean that because for the simple fact, it's a lot. That's why you got a lot of these kids out here smoking weed and drinking just to feel normal. They trying to feel normal. They're not doing it because they want to, they want to feel normal. Because they don't have nobody to talk to. You know who they talk to? That plastic in their hand. Toot, 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 toot. That's what you taught them. When the baby cried, you got him a little tablet. You gave it to him. When he wanted something, don't bother me. I've been working 2 jobs. You working 2 jobs. You buy him a $100 pair of jeans and shirt, $500 sneakers. You know, and then you don't have no time. A lot of times people just need to talk. They just want 5-10 minutes of your time. Ma, I got a problem. Don't bother me right now. I'm tired. Let me get some rest. And it builds up. And then when they go off, you be like, well, you could talk to me. But like he said, men don't cry. They don't whine. You don't complain. You don't do this. That is generational baggage. Some of us carrying baggage around that they don't even belong to us for decades. And like he said, you got to learn who you are and cultivate who you are. Don't let nobody else tell you who you are. This is the thing, that's why I'm so demanded to help these young, because my generation they thought was going to be the worst. I hear older people, oh, these young people out of control. What are you doing to help them? Did you pull them to the side, young man? Let me talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Can you come take out my garbage and give them a few dollars or something? You know, but you complaining, and it's the one that complain the most that ain't doing nothing.
Say that again. You want to tap to the next question? Because shoot, it be them that complain the most that don't do anything.
Nothing.
Okay?
You want to tap in, Gary?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just something that came to my mind. Like a lot of the times that I hear this negative stereotypes, especially like being in school from teachers and staff members, just saying, "Oh, you're just a football player. You're not going to be anything in life. You're just a thug." Especially in the East Ramapo Central School District, it's where that generational baggage carries on to these kids, and where they feel like, I don't want to go to school. I don't need school to be successful. I don't want to step foot in a building where I feel unappreciated, unwanted. And that starts with just a community foundation, just building a base to where the community could support these kids and understand where they come from, because people from the community walk the halls of Ramapo, walk the halls of Spring Valley, but they're the same ones complaining and not really bringing change. The solution, you could always be a part of the problem or part of the solution.
Yes.
And that just starts with you having a mind of your own and not just trying to be like everybody else. It's a follower, man. It really just kills me. It hurts to the bottom of my core to hear like a faculty member, you work at a school and you're treating these kids like this. Like, come on, man, you gotta do better. You gotta want better for these kids. And that just starts with finding your purpose. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's perfect.
You walked
Not be sorry for that.
Sorry.
You walked
Yeah.
right into the next question.
Well, before you jump into a question, that is a really good point to make in terms of faculty members, the teachers. It's not just the parents that is causing the generational curses or causing the issues with the generational gap. Carrie, I too have experienced the same growing up in St. Joseph, and well, it's not really school now, but there were many students that I know I grew up with where teachers have said you were not going to amount to anything but work at McDonald's, or you're not going to be anything but a pretty face. So the thing is, it starts, you have mom and dad bigging you up, because you could have a great household and then have a really bad school system or community support system, and then that's what deters you, and then quickly everyone's like, oh, who's that mom and dad? Yeah. Look how they raised that kid. And it turns out that it's actually you guys that are causing these kids to do that. So all the kids that are out here right now in Spring Valley or in Rockland County, that the crime rate has went up, and all the unemployment rate and all of those things have gone up. We as a community have to stop and take a look at ourselves and see, how are we treating these people? How are we treating the Hasidic community? Yes, we have our problems. How are we treating the new immigration that is coming in? Because the thing is, like, yes, I understand there are problems, and those problems cause at-home problems, but also at the same time, our home problems cannot solve our community problems. So we have to start with the community, start with the outside. Let's start cleaning. Well, start with the inside. Let's start cleaning inside our house, and then we can start cleaning outside the community.
Yes.
So, like what you said, find your purpose, and then you'll start figuring it out. All right, go to the next question. We're in church today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Woo.
This ain't church, this is truth.
It's true. Exactly what this podcast was made for.
That's what it's made for.
Just think about it.
I appreciate it.
So what is it that you think is missing from the generations that you are not a part of? Like, what is it that you want from these generations that you could have used growing up, or, mentoring, whatever it is?
Communication,
What is it that
action.
you wanted?
What are some examples that you feel that are missing? Whoever wants to go first.
I'm gonna let Calvin start. He's been kind of quiet.
So let me think. So I would say, pretty much what my generation is missing from these two. So I would say one, from like Scott's generation, I think the toughness in terms of like being able to just overcome obstacles and persevere. Like that was, and I think also even like, I don't want to say self-respect, but like I feel that in the past generations, when they had like the leaders like the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X, and then even like the Black Panther Party was comprised of people in their 20s, and I felt like there was a more appreciation, especially being a person of color. I think there was more self-love, and just more respect for being a person of color, because I think we were all united fighting together against like whether it was segregation or racism, oppression. So it caused us to like rally, and the amount of strength that took, I think that's a generational strength, because like just watching even like videos of the first schools that were desegregated, and it was just crazy. But I feel like even in the music, it was very unapologetic, and it just spoke the truth. Whereas like in our generation, there was some conformity. So I think definitely the strength from Scott's generation, I think is a generational strength for sure. And then from Carrie's generation, I think just the open-mindedness at birth.
Yeah.
Like literally once they pick up a tablet,
That was it.
the world immediately opened
up.
Immediately.
Wow.
So even when he was speaking about financial literacy, it's the truth, because us being middle child or middle children, what happens is I feel like at the beginning of all of our lives, we were kind of like, okay, let's go down this career path and then have retirement at the end. And I feel like while we were going through it, in the middle, that's where we kind of like, I don't think this is gonna work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think this is gonna work. And then that's when we started, being more open to different ways of creating financial freedom. However, there's still that conflict. Whereas, with Kara's generation, from the beginning, they're like, this is dumb. Like, what I'm saying? This is not gonna work. And then rather than, putting my time to make somebody else rich or to achieve somebody else's dream for a retirement or for a pension that I'm not even gonna get, I'm not gonna live my life doing a job that I hate. And that's something I feel like they're picking up very rapidly. Whereas for us, we're kind of we started being more open to it. I would say even during the pandemic, when we got to work from home, and a lot of us were like, this is so much better, and a lot of people just never went back to work, but once again, this is already in like the midpoints of our lives. But Carrie's generation, I feel like since day one they were already thinking like that. So so definitely I would say Scott's perseverance, and then Carrie's just intelligence, really.
I would agree to that. Yeah, for sure. Anybody else want to piggyback?
Wow. I love that. But you should have said what you started not to say. Self-respect is what's missing.
Yeah.
Because if you have no self-respect, you have no respect for other lives. That's why these kids out here killing each other. How you kill somebody that you spent dinner at their house and slept in their beds, and you can turn around and murder them without no thought, like it's nothing. And you have to understand that there's a lot of mechanisms put into activation. If I keep you high, if I keep you drunk, then you're distracted from your purpose. If I keep you where you sitting around slobbing all day and playing video games, you distracted. You have a purpose. God gave you a life for a purpose.